Okay, today we're going to build on GCF factoring and transition to factor by grouping. So I listed out some steps that you're going to follow. First, we're going to factor out the GCF from each group of terms. Step number 2, determine if the residual factors match. If not, box it. You're done. That is your factored form. If they do match, factor out that matching residual factor and then box it. You're done. You're factored. Okay, guys, we're going to see how those steps actually come into play with some examples. All right, so example 1, it has two groupings. The first grouping is 16x squared minus 12x, and the second grouping is 5x plus 15. So from each grouping, we're going to see if we have a GCF. So taking a look at the first group, 16x squared minus 12x. If I think about those two numbers, 16 and 12, I notice that 4 will divide into them evenly. So 4, but then they also both have x with them. So 4x would be the GCF. If I factor that out, 4x times what will give me 16x squared? Well, 4x times 4x will give me 16x squared. And then 4x times what will give me negative 12x? 4x times a negative 3. So 4x is my GCF, and my residual factor is 4x minus 3. There's a plus sign in between, so I'm going to pull that down, and now I'm looking at the second grouping. I see 5x plus 15. So if I think about the numbers, 5 and 15, 5 will divide into both. The 5 has an x, but the 15 does not. So there is not a variable that's common. Okay, so 5 times what will give me 5x? 5 times 1x, or just x, will give me 5x. And then plus 5 times what will give me 15? 5 times 3 will give me 15. So my GCF was 5, and my residual factor is x plus 3. All right, let's take a look at those residual factors. 4x minus 3 and x plus 3. Notice they do not match. So box it, we're done. That is our factored form. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the next example. Okay, looking at the second example, our first group is 5x squared minus 4x. Thinking about those two numbers, 5 and 4, the only number that will divide into both is 1. I don't need to write the 1, but they both do have x in them. So x is a common factor. X times what will give me 5x squared? Well, x times 5x will give me 5x squared. And then x times what will give me negative 4x? X times negative 4 makes negative 4x. Pulling down that plus sign and then looking at the second grouping, we have 3x minus 18. Thinking about those two numbers, 3 will divide into both 3 and 18. Notice they do not both have x with them, so the 3 is my GCF. 3 times what will give me 3x? 3 times 1x, or just x, will give me 3x. And 3 times what will give me negative 18? Well, 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. Looking at those residual factors, we have 5x minus 4, and we have x minus 6. They do not match, so box it. That is your factored form. Okay, looking at example 3, we have x squared minus 6x plus negative 3x minus 18. So looking at the first group, there's a 1 in front of that x squared, but the only number that will divide evenly into 1 and negative 6 is 1, which I don't really need to write that. But notice that they both have x in them, so there is a common factor of x. So x times what will give me x squared? Well, x times x will make x squared. And then x times what will give me negative 6x? X times negative 6 makes negative 6x. Okay, plus sign in between. The second set of factors. Notice both of those numbers are negative. So I'm going to factor out a negative 3 because negative 3 will divide into both of those numbers. If we factor out a negative 3 times what will make negative 3x? Well, negative 3 times x will make negative 3x. And negative 3 times what will make negative 18? Negative 3 times positive 6 will give me a negative 18. Taking a look at those residual factors, oh guys, they're so close, but they do not match. So box it. That is our final factored form. All right, looking at the next example, we have 4x squared plus 6x as our first group. Thinking about those numbers 4 and 6, 2 will divide into both of those evenly. They do both have an x, so x is common. 2x times what will give me 4x squared? Well, 2x times 2x will give me 4x squared. And 2x times what will give me positive 6x? Well, 2x times 3 will give me positive 6x. Pulling down that plus sign, thinking about the next grouping, we have 8x plus 12. Thinking about those two numbers, 4 will divide into both of those evenly. 4 times what will give me 8x? Well, 4 times 2x gives me 8x. And 4 times what will give me 12? 4 times 3 will give me 12. Looking at those residual factors, on this one they match. So guys, when they match, we are going to factor out the matching residual. So our matching residual is 2x plus 3. If we factor that out of this first grouping, so we're factoring it out, there's a 2x left over. And if we factor it out of our second grouping, again, we're factoring this out, we have positive 4. All right, so this is our factored form. We have the common residual of 2x plus 3 times the factor 2x plus 4. All right, the last example that we're going to take a look at together says 5x squared plus 20x plus 2x plus 8. Taking a look at this first grouping, thinking about the numbers 5 and 20, 5 will divide into both of those, and they both have a common factor of x. 5x times what will make 5x squared? Well, 5x times x will make 5x squared. And 5x times what will give us 20x? 5x times 4 is 20x. Bring down that plus sign in the middle. Looking at the second group, 2 is a common factor. 2 times what will make 2x? 2 times x is 2x. And 2 times what will give us 8? 2 times 4 will give us 8. Looking at those residual factors, x plus 4, they match. So the matching residual comes out, x plus 4. In this first grouping, if I factor out the x plus 4, I'm left with 5x. And in the second group, if I factor out the x plus 4, I'm left with the positive 2. There is the final answer in factored form. Okay, guys, it's time for the you try. So take a look at those 3 questions, pause the video, see if you can factor out the GCF, and then make sure you're looking to see if the residuals match. If so, remember you have that extra step. Unpause the video to get the answers. All right, hopefully you've had enough time to write those out. The first one, we factored out the GCFs. Notice, guys, that the residual factors do not match, 2x plus 5 and 2x minus 3. So we just boxed it. That's our answer. Number 2, our residual factors did match. 6x plus 1, we factor that out. From each grouping, we're left with x and the plus 2 then. All right, number 3 was the challenge because of those signs. So we factored out the 5x, we got 2x minus 3. With this second set of factors, I factored out a negative 2 because negative 2 times 2x will give me the negative 4x, and negative 2 times negative 3 will give me the positive 6. And that causes my residual factors to match. So I factored out that residual of 2x minus 3. And if we factor that out from each group, we're left with 5x and plus a negative 2. I just wrote minus 2. All right, guys, that concludes the lesson for today.